24 years old, and for 2 years, I lived alone in a snug townhome with my loyal companion, Bear, my dog. It was a place I moved into when I turned 22, securing it with a job that paid the bills. The home held a special place in my heart. It was the first space I'd ever rented just for myself. But everything changed one fateful night, altering 2 years of content living. The weather outside was dreary, with heavy rain pouring down. Since it was my day off, I found myself lounging in the living room, idly swiping through my phone. The clock struck 8 p.m., signaling it was just an hour before my usual bedtime. Meanwhile, Pierre, my faithful canine companion, had stationed himself by the back door, peering out into the rain. His restlessness soon became evident as he began to whine, a clear indication that he needed to relieve himself outdoors. Responding to his plea, I rose from my seat, allowing him access outside before securing the door shut behind him. Standing alone in the quiet kitchen, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was amiss.
Despite being a townhome, there was a comforting barrier of a small fence that separated our backyard, alleviating any concerns about Bear wandering off. I should note that Bear wasn't a big dog by any means. He was more akin to a fluffy, teddy bear-like companion. Shortly after I let him out, perhaps just 15 or 20 seconds later, I was startled by the sound of his distressed whimpers and barks. It was evident that something had spooked him, prompting me to hastily rush to the door. Peering outside, I witnessed Bear darting back towards me, his tail tucked between his legs, a clear sign of fear. After Bear swiftly returned inside, I cautiously peered out into the backyard, half expecting to spot a lurking coyote or some other threat near the fence. To my relief, there was nothing to be seen. However, I couldn't shake off the worry gnawing at me as I double-checked Bear's well-being and secured the door tightly. His unusual behavior had me deeply concerned. Bear rarely acted out in such a manner, which only heightened my anxiety for him. I cradled him on my lap for the remainder of the night, hoping to provide him with some comfort. Yet, Bear remained on high alert, his attention darting from one window to another, as if sensing something amiss. For the next 30 minutes he remained vigilant, his gaze fixed on different points around the house. Suddenly, after about 45 minutes of tense vigilance, Bear's behavior shifted. His head snapped towards the window behind me, his ears pinned back as he emitted a low growl. Following his gaze, I turned to face the window and froze in terror. There, mere feet away from us, a man loomed against the glass, his gaze locked with mine. Shock gripped me, and I recoiled instinctively, a scream tearing from my throat as I stumbled backward. Without a moment's hesitation, the intruder bolted away, vanishing into the shadows along the side of the house. Bear's sudden bark shattered the eerie silence, echoing through the room in response to the sudden chaos. Hastily, I closed the blinds, ensuring that all windows were securely shut. Despite my efforts, the identity of the man at the window remained a mystery to me. I racked my brain, but I couldn't place him. His presence was utterly inexplicable. With every fiber of my being, I strained my ears for any sign of his lingering presence, but the relentless downpour outside drowned out any potential clues. Thankfully, Bear appeared to have settled down, his demeanor growing calmer as time passed. Nevertheless, I couldn't shake off the lingering unease that gripped me. Determined to stay vigilant, I remained awake for a while longer, keeping a watchful eye on my surroundings. Eventually, Exhaustion crept in, and I made my way upstairs, opting to have Bear sleep beside me in my room for added security.
Sleep eluded me for a long while that night, my mind weighed down by the unsettling events of the evening. Eventually, exhaustion caught up with me, and I drifted into a fitful slumber. However, my rest was short-lived. Upon awakening, I found Bear standing alert by the bedroom door, his gaze fixed intently on it. The sight sent a shiver down my spine, a chilling reminder of the events that had transpired earlier. Before I could make sense of the situation, the tranquility of the night was shattered by the sound of voices emanating from below. My heart lurched in my chest as I strained to listen, realizing with a sinking feeling that there were intruders in my home. Their conversation carried through the house, their footsteps echoing loudly as they moved about. What struck me most was their brazen disregard for secrecy. They spoke in full voice, seemingly unconcerned about alerting me to their presence. It was a chilling realization that sent a wave of fear coursing through me. Despite having secured my bedroom door, fear gripped me as I realized I had no escape route. With Bear at my side, I moved cautiously, attempting to keep both of us calm amidst the mounting tension. Sensing the urgency of the situation, I scooped Bear into my arms and retreated to the furthest corner of my room, seeking refuge behind the bed. As the minutes ticked by in eerie silence, a chilling realization dawned upon me. The once loud voices and footsteps had ceased entirely. Panic surged within me as I grasped the gravity of the situation. With trembling hands, I retrieved my phone, my fingers fumbling as I dialed the emergency number. Speaking in hushed tones, I relayed my distress to the dispatcher, providing them with my address in a desperate plea for help. Bear's demeanor shifted abruptly, his low growl escalating into frantic barking and whining as the unmistakable sound of footsteps echoed up the stairs. Frantically, I pleaded with the operator on the other end of the line, urging them to dispatch help without delay. Meanwhile, the intruders resumed their conversation, their voices muffled and indistinct. Summoning all the courage I could muster, I shouted back at them, my voice trembling with fear. "We just want to talk. We're not here to hurt you," they insisted, their words ringing hollow in the face of the palpable threat they posed. With my heart pounding in my chest, I reiterated my plea for them to leave, my panic mounting with each passing second. A tense silence hung in the air, fraught with uncertainty and dread. "We're here to help you," one of the men claimed, their words failing to reassure me amidst the chaos. Overwhelmed by fear and uncertainty, I remained silent, my attempts to stifle my sobs the only sound in the room. The tension in the air thickened as the intruders awaited my response. Eventually, a heavy silence descended, broken only by the sound of their steady breathing on the other side of the door. Time seemed to stretch endlessly as I waited, gripped by a sense of paralyzing dread. Suddenly, the weight of their presence lifted, and I detected the faint sound of footsteps retreating down the stairs. Relief flooded through me, but I remained on edge, unable to discern whether they had truly departed or merely retreated to another part of the house. All I knew for certain was that only one set of footsteps echoed through the darkness, leaving me to grapple with the unsettling aftermath of their intrusion. As the unsettling stillness settled over the bedroom, I strained my ears for any sign of the intruder's lingering presence. Yet, there was nothing but silence, devoid of even the faintest whisper of breathing. In the distance, the soft wail of sirens pierced the night air, growing steadily louder with each passing moment. Relief washed over me at the reassuring sound, a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. The sudden rush of footsteps echoed from downstairs, signaling the intruder's hurried exit. However, a gnawing sense of unease lingered as I grappled with the uncertainty of the situation. Despite the apparent departure of one assailant, the whereabouts of the other remained shrouded in mystery. Doubt crept into my mind as I struggled to reconcile the absence of any discernible sound with the lingering fear that he might still be lurking nearby, unseen and unheard. With bated breath, I awaited the arrival of the police, hoping for a swift resolution to the harrowing ordeal. The sound of their approach soon reached my ears, followed by the methodical clatter of their footsteps as they conducted a thorough search of the premises. Anxious anticipation gripped me as I listened to their progress, each passing moment weighed down by the lingering fear of the unknown. Eventually, their footsteps reached the staircase, signaling their ascent towards my sanctuary. As they reached my door, a hesitant knock reverberated through the room, causing my heart to skip a beat. Reluctantly, I approached the door, my hand trembling as I reached for the handle. With a deep breath, I swung the door open, revealing the reassuring sight of a uniformed officer standing before me. Without hesitation, I poured out my concerns to the officer, desperate for reassurance in the aftermath of the night's events. Grateful for their presence, I welcomed their guidance, hoping that their intervention would bring an end to the lingering sense of unease that had gripped me since the intrusion. The officer directed me to vacate the premises, his authoritative tone underscoring the seriousness of the situation. Reluctantly, I complied, stepping out into the night as one of his colleagues remained behind to scour the house for any lingering threats. Despite their thorough search, however, no intruders were found. Instead, all they discovered were watery footprints tracing a path around the perimeter of the house, along with the unsettling revelation of an unlocked window. The realization sent a shiver down my spine. Uncertainty gnawed at me as I struggled to recall whether I had indeed secured the window prior to the intrusion. The discovery left me shaken to the core, haunted by the inexplicable disappearance of the intruder who had seemed so assuredly present mere moments before. The absence of any trace of his presence only served to deepen the sense of dread that lingered in the aftermath of the night's events. The lingering sense of unease persisted long after the events of that fateful night had passed. Each night, plagued by the unsettling feeling of being watched, sleep eluded me. The relentless anxiety took its toll on my mental well-being, casting a shadow over every moment of solitude within the confines of my home. Ultimately, the strain became too much to bear, prompting me to make the difficult decision to leave. 3 months ago, I bid farewell to the townhome that had once been my sanctuary, seeking refuge from the relentless stress that had consumed me in its walls. However, even as I left that chapter of my life behind, the unanswered questions continued to haunt me. The identities of the intruders remained a mystery, their motives shrouded in ambiguity. Without closure, the uncertainty weighed heavily on my mind, leaving me grappling with the unsettling realization that the threat could still loom over me, even from miles away. Despite my best efforts to move on, the specter of that night continued to cast a long shadow, a constant reminder that I was never truly alone.